Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome to this session. I'm very happy that you're able to make time and join this session on my tech career journey. I'm really excited and happy to be talking in front of all of you. And I also thank the Amazon team to giving me this opportunity to be talking in front of you. Hopefully my tech career journey is provides you with some kind of an inspiration, or at least possibly some takeaways of what I went through and how I solved my problems, and maybe that is applicable to you and you're able to take those tips as well. Thanks a lot. uh, just to introduce myself, I'm Jayashree, a senior manager at Amazon Music, and I have more than like 2 decades of tech career, and I just want to take this time to kind of share how I evolved as a technical professional over these 2 decades, right? So yeah, the format of this session is going to be I'm going to share some slides, and the slides are not very heavy; it's very light, and that's just going to give you context about what I'm talking. And I'm going to do a lot of talking across different phases of my life, which contributed to my career. Yeah, thank you, and yeah, so the first phase of my maybe the tech journey, I would say my education, and also to give you a background on where I'm coming from. I come from a tier 2 city in Tamil Nadu called Trichy. People can relate the city to NIT Trichy, and those who know Tamil Nadu deeply can relate the city to probably like a temple city, a lot of temples out there, and a nice city where Kaveri flows. So I was born and brought up in this riverbed, uh, where the weather is like it's warm to hot to hotter, and you never see anything cold. So that's how it was. I hail from a very modest family with a very conservative social background, and my parents they were not college educated, but they were very keen and focused on making sure their children are educated and they're able to get whatever they need and whatever they dream of. I'm really grateful to them. They invested in me and my brother in the same fashion. They did not differentiate. They really believed in making the girl child educated. They really helped me and supported me in all my dreams. I'm take this opportunity to also thank them. Yeah, so given that I did not have any great role model, not I mean within my family, I mean there was not great professionals. I did not have many role models, and there was not many people in my family who could really guide me into what I want to be, or what my aspirations should be, or shape me up to something great. So I really was very self-driven, and I took my kind of inspiration and motivation from peers, I would say. When I say peers, I always relate myself to people around me, people who are like me under the similar kind of circumstances, but who are doing better than me, right? So I try to kind of source inspiration from them and try to learn from them and see how they are solving or tackling situations that I'm going through, and how still they are able to excel and stuff, right? So this is how, I mean, though I had certain role models of leaders, and I would really read a lot of their biographies of late. But to me, to kind of drive an inspiration or kind of move forward in progress, it is always kind of this peer group that I looked up to, and try to see how they did well, right? So that's how it was. And if I talk about my schooling, I was naturally interested in science and math, and I did not have any specific aspiration as I was a child, and I always thought I need to be. aiming high. I need to be performing well. I need to be hardworking. And so these were the traits I just put in. So that naturally put me into some sort of top 5% in my schools. And my teachers were very supportive of me, and they kind of helped me understand the concepts and grow. So with that, I mean, I did my high school, higher secondary, both in Trichy. And when I graduated, I mean, when I completed my 12th grade, that's when you kind of move on to the next professional course, right? And I came out as a topper in my school. I also secured a district rank. So, and that just helped me to secure a spot in an government engineering college. Probably not. It's not in my hometown. It was in Coimbatore, right? So I started there, but I got an opportunity to get re-allotted to NIT Trichy. This was like something like a waitlisted candidates who get moved. So I just took that opportunity, but that came with the caveat. I mean, at that point in time, because I was not guaranteed of which stream of engineering I would be. It entirely depended on my performance and also what was available at that point in time. um, I was first time. I mean, I had not traveled to a lot of other states or not stayed away a lot from my home, so I was a bit homesick as well. I thought I'll go back and then home, and and it was a challenge for me as well, right? So I had to really prove myself. I have to again make sure I'm putting that effort to kind of come up in the rank in my first year of college to kind of secure what I needed. So that was another challenge and opportunity. I did take it up because I wanted to go back. So I came back to NIT Trichy, and it was kind of a re-allotted batch, and they really had to work hard to kind of get what they needed. So, and maybe by end of the first year, I secured, I think, within 7%, 5% of the entire batch, and I could get into electronics and communication engineering at that point in time. So NIT Trichy, I would say, is a very great milestone in my life, that just exposed me to a new bar of learning, right? A new bar of social living, a new bar of everything. Because as I told you, I had not really gone out of certain South Indian states, and NIT Trichy was full of people from other states. It was a very diverse setup. And also, I mean, they were all bunch of smart kids, right, who never settled for less. I mean, most of them had a lot of aspirations and ambitions. They were very clear about what they wanted to do. So I felt, I mean, I came with with a blank slate. I did not have much in my mind. So I felt again my peer group, the bar, has risen, and I have to really source inspiration from them and then match up to them or do better than them, right? So, and the lab, the infrastructure, the staff, the professors, so they were all kind of a class that I had not known till now, because it's a national level funded institution, very very renowned, and that really gave me a lot of exposure in shaping up me as a professional as such, right? What the competitions of world will be, what the competitions, real world competitions would be, and kind of shaped me up in a way that I would be ready for a profession outside when I finish my course. And I would say NIT Trichy is also very important for me from the perspective that I really made a very close knit of friend circle. I mean, I would say a gang of girls. We are well connected even now, and which was very important, because I mean, I would say for anybody, it's not just for women. For anyone, it's very important to have that circle of friends with whom you can bounce back. I would say they are the wall. They are your support, who will kind of make you not retrograde. They will not make you digress. I mean, they will help you, support you. They will help you to keep afloat or they will help you to progress for sure. So there were several situations, I mean, you would come across in your life, in your career, where you'll be so distressed and you'll be emotionally hurt, and there could be so many situations where you need this set of gang of friends with whom you can laugh and cry, with whom you can be very open, and with whom you can definitely bounce back on a lot of different things, right? So that's another plus, I would say, which I got from NIT Trichy, and that has really made my life. It has contributed a lot in my life, as I say, as it goes. I can give you some anecdotes as I speak. Yeah, so NIT Trichy, and I passed out, and I got a campus recruitment into Bosch, and I will. And after 2 years of career journey, I also moved to the US to kind of pursue my higher studies, right? So at that point in time when I moved, I got married, and I thought it was the right time for me to pursue higher studies. And I always that was something that I wanted to explore, but I did not take that plunge, probably because I was not completely ready for it. So I went to the US, pursued my master's in computer science in the Cal State University of San Jose, which also meant I did some prereq courses for it. Like I was not introduced to data structures, algorithms, operating systems, some of the computer science fundamentals, and then I had to take these courses. I mean, studying in the US and the US universities give you a lot more different perspective, and the learning is very different, right? I mean, for young kids, if you're listening to this, it is good to explore that opportunity if you get it, because it prepares you for a world stage. It prepares you to be a lot more independent and to be more self-advocating for yourself. The curriculum is such that and also you're at a stage where you're mature enough, right? So you're supposed to take your own decisions and be independent and kind of drive your own courses and what you want to be, right? So I felt um, being in I mean, studying in the US and being in the Cal State University gave me kind of prepared me for a world stage, I would say. And I had great professors, support of great professors, and we took up some papers and we published papers, and in I also gave publications and presented in IEEE forums. So those were all great experiences and great learning. I mean, facing an audience in an IEEE forum and taking their questions and answering that. I mean, I would say again, it just prepared me for a world stage, and it was definitely a great learning experience, right? So this is how I was getting prepared for my tech career. So this is a background about my education. Yeah, let me then move on to the next stage of my life, the start of my career, and the career that I had before Amazon. Right. So you see a bunch of companies in the slides. Yeah, these were all the companies I was in prior to joining Amazon. Right. So I told you, I mean, after my NIT, I joined Bosch as a campus recruit, and it was into Bosch Telecom. And almost all my experience prior to Amazon was in the domain of telecommunications, right? Applications for telecommunication services. It was all in the layer of network management and trying to build applications to manage some of the infrastructure elements of telecom service providers. Right. So this was the stage where the technology, the internet was booming. Technology was pivoting from native languages to Java. And if I mean, that was a time where people were moving away from C, C++ to adapting to Java. And the whole technology was moving away from mainframes and monolith servers to kind of distributed computing, right? So this is the stage I started my career. And luckily, I would say the domain that I was in, though it was very telecom specific, I was on the application layer, and that needed more, technologies that were very generic enough, right? So if you think of it, I had to work on the middle layers. In those days, if I don't know, if you guys know, there is something. I started with an object request broker, which was Corba, and then I moved on to multiple middlewares like WebLogic, JBoss, and a lot of UI elements from this Java's UI framework to JavaScript-based UI framework, and so many things. And and most of the time, the backend layer, the we were not specifically talking to the database. It was to an agent, which was talking to the network devices through different protocols. The protocols included like SNMP, RPC, and several others, right? So I would say pretty much most of my career in these companies were around this domain, and it was also evolving along with what technologies were evolving. So it started with Java, as I told you, and people wanted a very generic input mechanism. It moved from XML to JSON, and several. The extensibility and scalability of applications was the prime criteria, and so if you and then it moved on to something like service oriented architecture. It was WSDL and SOAP based initially, then it moved into HTTP based lightweight REST APIs. So I've seen all those transformations as it was happening, so across all these companies. While my career was taking shape and I was growing, there is also element of this is this phase where your life events are also happening. There are so many life milestones in your life that are happening, right? So I told you I got married, and then it comes to having kids. And yeah, so let me talk about. There are so many challenges that everyone would face. You got married, and when you actually start having, when you have your first child, that's when I would say any woman actually starts facing their first challenge, right? So every woman, if you career women, you talk to them, they will have a story and about how they managed their child as well as their work, and they will have a story which is very unique to them. I don't think there is one size fits all, and there is a template that you can apply to kind of how you would manage these situations. It is very unique to everyone. People can learn from others and apply what is right for them, right? So that's very important. Yeah. So I would really I felt all those challenges as well, but I should really thank my husband. He was very supportive. He was also from a similar social background, but he really believed in my career. So he was very supportive in whatever decisions we had to take, and he has also been a great partner in making sure that we are having that balance in our lives, right? So I so when I would like to share an episode where there was a situation where my first daughter, was like 6 months old, and my support, childcare support at home just vanished. Right, so I was very helpless and clueless at that point in time. I didn't know what to do, and at that situation, I felt the right thing to do is probably to take a break and kind of let my manager know I need to quit and come back after some time, because I did not have any other option at that point I could think of. Right. So I was bouncing. I told you about my friends. I was bouncing this idea with them. And one advice that came up is like, I'm just being too premature in this decision, and I've not explored all the options, and I need to really be open minded and go and explore options. So this is a very small advice. I feel this is very applicable to me even now. I've taken this advice and applied to it in different stages of my life, and it worked. So I then thought about it. I went back to my manager and told him that I don't have support at home. It's too early. We think that my daughter is too young to be in a daycare. And in those days, daycare was not as established as it is now. So we didn't want to do that. So I told him, this is my situation. What do you think my options are? Uh, yeah, he came back with an option that really worked for me. He said, you connect from home. Connecting from home, now it become the norm, but it was not the case in those times. And he also gave me an option. You take a shift where you log in late in the evening and then you work till some midnight, right? So I can log in from 7 and I can support till second. I mean 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning. This was a need because at that point some of our customers needed some support, and so this was an option that was given to me. Um, maybe that maybe that role was not the best, but I think that was the right call for me to take at that point in time, and it really worked. And my husband was very supportive. He used to be back at home before I logged in, and he used to take care of my daughter after that, right? So it worked out, and I felt at that. I mean, I felt it was a great advice from my friends. It's a small thing, but I would really encourage all of you to think about, don't think quitting is an option. I mean, that is the easiest thing to, when you're challenged with a situation, the most easiest thing that would come to your mind is, why am I going through all this? I mean, is it even worth it? I mean, why should I take this pain? I can quit. I can probably come back later, right? So I would say that's the easiest decision, easiest path. But if you want to really stay afloat and really not take that as an option and explore the other opportunities, other options that you might have, you will definitely find a way to solve it. So this will be applicable to different situations in your life, but definitely take the thought of quitting as an option. So I would really urge you about it. So lot of similar small pieces of advices, right? So asking for support, right? So when you're so drained, exhausted, overwhelmed, I mean, the early stages of childcare will really exhaust everyone, with loads of responsibilities at work and at home. I would say raise hand for support. I mean, it is okay. I mean, you don't have to be overwhelmingly doing everything on your own. Asking for support, asking for help does not signal that you're weak. It just means that you are very candid, and you are just letting people know that you need help to kind of finish something. That I would say is trust building. And even at home, right? So you have to, I mean, there will be always this guilt feeling in you, where you think that, oh, it is my responsibility, I'm kind of moving away from that. Don't shy away from asking for help, and it is really going to ease your burden, and it is going to help you um, solve a lot of challenges that you may have, right? So, and that's how, I mean, it really worked out. And then after 6 or 8 months, we put my daughter in daycare, and it and then carried on. So and then again, my career journey went well, and I constantly grew. And there were also opportunities at the early stages of my career, like when I was like 7 or 8 years into the career, people were offering me to take up a leader role, like to manage people. I was conscious at that point in time to say, and it was a conscious decision to say no, because I felt I needed to be more hands-on, solving more challenging tech problems, and mature enough to kind of take that opportunity later, right? And later, after like 4 or 5 years, when there was an opportunity that cropped up in a different organization that I was on, I raised my hand to say, yes, I want to take this. This is the right time. I felt I was mature enough to take that leadership role. So I would also, I mean, tell you, take that right call, move your roles or the growth path when you feel you're ready to take that, or you may have certain milestones that you have in your mind that you want to accomplish, before which you want to really take that opportunity. It's fair. and take those right judgment calls, right? Yeah. So as I moved on, as I became a leader, most of my experience, if I talk about Dell EMC or HP or Alcatel Lucent, right? So I was kind of leading a product, and where the customers were kind of Fortune 500 companies. These were like B2B products, right? So these were all enterprise customers who have a big network infrastructure, and we were developing software for managing their infrastructure. So around the and fault and alarms and monitoring, and around configuration management, and also about reporting, about their network element health, their configuration, and stuff like that, right? So I used to take, I mean, I had a direct access to customers. So I used to take that opportunity to kind of talk to them, because the teams that I was leading, we were responsible for the product end to end, and we develop features. We also provide the layer one support to the customers, right? So we have the opportunity whenever there are escalations, or even I used to be on the calls and take that opportunity to understand the customer pain points. And every infrastructure of different customers are very different, right? So and that really helped me on how our product is being deployed across various customer landscape. And that was building an end-to-end picture in my mind, and it gave me clear insights into the business of how things are. I used to also spend a lot of time on my own with chatting with some of these sales and business development folks who used to come back to me on understanding about the product capabilities, or getting some report or getting some data and stuff like that. And I used to work very closely with them, and that is something that I used to enjoy. I used to take it as my initiative. So whenever they used to pitch a product initiative to a new client, I mean, I would be very interested to understand how do they do that, and what are they pitching. And I also realize they promise a lot to the customer than the reality. Yeah. So this helped me build a kind of a customer insight. And with the direct access to customers, I also kind of brought in a lot of processes. I used to make sure we demo our features to customers, and get their early feedback, and incorporate all of them, and not surprise them in the end with a product which probably is not what is their expectation is. So every month we used to have a customer connect, and then kind of demo what we are doing to the customers and get their early on feedback. So all these, and most of the projects that we were doing at that point in time were also a lot of technology migrations. So probably to address scale, or sometimes to address cost, to move away from some of these licensed softwares like JBoss, and then kind of move into some of the open source frameworks like Spring. So that kept me and my team stimulated in trying to solve and keep us abreast on some of the latest technology advancements that were happening. And some of the products included how we could kind of manage our reporting to scale, the sheer number of data that we get from the IoT devices, and how do we analyze and report these in a real-time fashion, and how our reporting can scale in a generic fashion to multiple different customers and their network devices, which are very different, which talk different protocols, and the kind of reporting needs that they had, like the kind of various formats that they needed, and the schedule in which they needed. So these products, I felt, I mean, I built teams, I built these products from scratch. So this was very energizing, and it was really providing me a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. While I was doing that, I mean, as I told you, the domain of work, though it was telecom, my uh, um, domain area of work was on the application layer, more relevant to what was happening in the outside, because e-commerce was a its boom, and people were shifting to cloud computing, and the heavy SOA architecture was being broken down into microservices, and there were lots that were happening outside. So virtualization, containerization, so many things. Other companies, a lot of different startups on the e-commerce side and the mobile commerce side were very fast growing. It was growing in a rapid phase, right? So I mean, though I tried to keep myself relevant, um, I felt I mean, in order to steer these kind of big technology telecom enterprise customers to move into some of these technologies, it's not going to be easy. I mean, they have a huge infrastructure, and they don't really want to migrate things into all these scalable technologies so easily, right? So it's a lot of effort for them. Many of them resist that. So I felt I needed to kind of explore something different, something that's very different from this domain, and also something where I mean, I was at a kind of a mid-career dilemma, you can say. A lot of people were starting their ventures, a lot of people were moving to startups. So I was not sure whether I was ready for a startup or cut out for a startup, though I liked to get into something that was really fast paced. So that is the time I got an opportunity with Amazon, right? So yeah, Amazon, I would say, has been the best thing that has ever happened to my career so far, right? So the kind of sense of satisfaction, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of learning, and the sense of the fast-paced environment, I would say, the kind of satisfaction I've got in Amazon, it's much way higher than what I have accomplished or what I have done in all my career put together before. Yeah, so why Amazon is very different. I mean, before joining Amazon, I had my own skepticism. I mean, there were presumptions about Amazon's work-life balance. I was thinking I'm all settled now. Things are working well. My family is very supportive, and my kids have very well adjusted to my routine. I mean, am I disrupting everything by joining Amazon? Am I going to be successful there? And I mean, that was the time the New York Times article about Amazon's work-life culture has also been published. So I did some of my homework. I again spoke to some of the friends through their contacts I got to talk to few Amazonians, and try to understand their perspective of Amazon. I mean, the people I spoke to, overwhelmingly, they were very happy, and they said you will not get a sense of I mean, you will not get the kind of sense of accomplishment anywhere else. That's the kind of feeling I got. So being reinforced by all that, I took this plunge. And other aspect about why I took this plunge is also uh, because I mean, it was for Amazon Music. Not that I was very brand aware of Amazon Music at that point in time. It was not launched in India. It was a global offering. Music. I mean, music was very close to me. I mean, I'm a trained. I have learned Carnatic music, and my daughters are also learning, and it's a it's a art that connects not only us, most of us. So I mean, getting into that business, I felt it's very interesting to understand the whole business of music. And also, I mean, completely new domain, digital streaming, which I have no clue about. So I just took that plunge. And yeah, in my subsequent slides, I will go deeper and talk about my Amazon Music journey. But I really want to talk about how Amazon really is a place to be, right? How do I derive my motivation and my enthusiasm being in Amazon? It's close. It's going to be close to 5 years. In another 2 months, I'll complete 5 years in Amazon, right? So it's just because of its day one culture and the way the leadership principles kind of build its DNA. That's what I would say. I would describe Amazon as like a very giant mechanical machine, which the complex gear system, right? So all those gears are moving at a very fast pace if you look at it, but still it moves in unison, or there is no glitches. How does it happen? I mean, an organization of that scale, which is still operating very successfully even in its grassroots, I would say it's because of its DNA, it's because of its operating model. And two great things that contribute to it is its day one culture and the leadership principles. Let's talk about, I mean, you may have heard about day one culture in probably in many others talk about it, or some of the publicly available forums. Uh, yeah, day one culture is what it's, I would say it's a culture and it's an operating model. It just makes sure that Amazon does not slack. So what does it mean? It means that we constantly innovate and experiment for our customers. The customer is in the central of every decision that we take, and we innovate on behalf of our customers, right? And it needs our organizations to be flat. It needs our organization to be nimble. We have to move very fast, and we should be in a position to take high quality, high velocity decisions in a fast pace, right? So how does it happen? And it's because the whole everyone is driven by leadership principles, right? So everyone has the guiding principle to kind of take those decisions. And this is not just for leaders. I mean, this is for every employee at Amazon. Employee at every level is a leader, and employee at every level is going to take decisions, and these principles help them guide through take those decisions, right? So it I would say there are 14 guiding principles. Each one of them, if you have not already read about it, I would strongly encourage you. It's very well defined and well crafted, and it's applicable to anybody and everybody, right? So, and some of the leadership principles are crafted specifically contradicting each other, because as an Amazonian, you are supposed to have the right judgment to apply the right principle for that situation, right? Which is very important. Yeah, if you ask me what are my favorite leadership principles, I would say it is ownership, customer obsession, and invent and simplify, right? So ownership, if you talk about it, every Amazonian is supposed to act like a owner, right? So they think about long term, and they kind of pivot long term benefits over short term gains. And they never call out, I mean, they don't leave anything unturned. There is nothing like this is not my job. So you are responsible for end to end, and you are responsible for making sure whatever you intended for the customer is being delivered, right? So ownership gives that sense of accomplishment for everybody, right? So as a owner, you don't care about what function you are in, but you interface with every other function, every other team, to make sure you're unblocked and you're moving forward, right? So it is the quality that makes people to progress, which is and deliver, which is very important. And customer obsession, which is I would say the core leadership principle, Amazon for Amazon. So customer is at the center of every decision, right? So we start from the customer and work backwards. Always we define what are we going to deliver to the customer, and then plan how do we accomplish, or how do we deliver that, right? Without that, we constantly look for what our customers are undergoing, and what is that their pain points are, and always make sure that we are improving their convenience and selection, right, across whatever we offer. So without that customer obsession, it's very difficult for us to make sure we are doing the meaningful impact in the business. And also, I mean, it's customer obsession does not mean that we are not cognizant of the competition, but we don't we pay more attention to customers feedback than what our competitions are doing. So that's how we would craft our so all leaders and in Amazon will look for customer voice, will listen to the customer metrics, will analyze their behavior, how they are consuming their product to make sure we are doing the right thing for our customers. So this is a core part of our DNA, right? And the third leadership principle I want to talk about is again, invent and simplify, which goes with our day one culture of innovation. So we have to innovate on behalf of our customers. We have to make sure the customer's life is simplified. That also means that we are simplifying the way we are solving our problems for customers, right? So we are not reinventing a wheel, or we do something very radical which is in the long term going to kind of help our customers in a better way. So innovation is, I would say, is part of the Amazon culture, and we constantly look for ways to innovate and then simplify the lives of our customers. So there are 14 other principles. Everything is very different, and everything is very applicable to your day-to-day life. And I would say these leadership principles are like kind of a language that we use in Amazon, right? So it's very easy for me to converse with any Amazonian and what I want to communicate, right? So I can say I want to see a bias for action here. I can say I did not see insist on high standards, and so people understand what I mean. People are able to relate what is needed there, and so it makes our whole life very easy. So another area where Amazon manages this whole giant mechanical system that I would say talked about is through mechanisms, right? So it creates mechanisms and diligently creates processes so that those are all followed to make sure that we are not regressing from what it is. For an organization of that scale, making sure that every team and every leader is operating, keeping Amazon's core culture and values in mind, it's important that we have defined certain mechanisms to making sure that those are all followed. One such mechanism is bar raising. So I would like to give you some background about bar raising. If any one of you have already given interviews with Amazon, there will be one interviewer who's a who's designated as a bar raiser. So that person will be neutral, probably not from the same org where they are hiring from, and who will make sure, who will hold the who will be the advocate of leadership principles and make evaluate the candidate across these leadership principles, and as well as the functional competencies and the bar that is needed for Amazon. So these bar raisers are neutral bodies who ensure that the bar of hiring is kept high, right? So every new hire that we bring in are kind of better than the 50% of the folks that we already have. And we all know Amazon is successful because the smart people that we have, and making sure that this bar is maintained is very, very critical. So this bar racer was a process that was that the mechanism that was brought in I mean a decade ago, and it certifies certain individuals to and go I mean puts them through some training to certify them as a bar raiser. I'm very proud to be a bar raiser, so I qualified as a bar raiser, and I make sure I'm holding the hiring bar for Amazon very high. And I want to talk about what motivated me to become a bar raiser. Even during my interview, I mean, I've heard about this bar raising process, and I was very intrigued about this whole thing. And I used to look through each of my interview loop and think, try to find out, is this the bar raiser? Is this a bar raiser? So that role really intrigued me and excited me. So after I joined Amazon, I mean, as a leader, I had to hire for my team. So I closely watched the bar raisers, the kind of inputs that they gave, the kind of insights that they had in hiring. That really related well to me. And I also thought being a bar racer is a great opportunity. For one, it connects me with people, and connecting with candidates really is also a learning experience, right? So you learn a lot of different things that they have done in their organizations. I mean, a specific problem that is solved by multiple different people in a multiple different fashion, and a lot of new technologies I get to even know through my interviews, right? So I try to again after that learn about that, to understand what it is. So it keeps me abreast about what is happening in organizations. It helps me to learn. It helps me to also network. So I network within Amazon, right? So I bar raise and I take loops, interview loops for other teams, and I interact with their HMs and other interviewers. So that gives me visibility into other teams, what they're doing and what they're hiring for and stuff like that. So I really relish this journey, and I'm very proud to be a bar racer for Amazon. And that way I'm also contributing to the organization and making sure we are hiring the smartest people for the organization, right? And the third thing I do for my team, Amazon Music in Bangalore, is I lead the diversity and inclusion charter. And yeah, so diversity is important. We focus on making sure we have gender diversity. We start from the input funnel. We make sure we have interviewers. In every loop we have at least one female interviewer, and me being a bar racer has also helped in enabling that. And we also have buddies during the lunch breaks for the interview candidates, making sure that they feel comfortable, and they can ask questions about the culture and diversity and stuff like that. And so in that way, I mean, diversity is while diversity is one of the prime initiatives that I work on, I also am more interested in inclusion, right? So I feel as we hire more diverse talent, it's also important that we give the culture in the organization is kind of nurturing them and retaining them, and making them feel comfortable, right? So I kind of advocated the team inclusion training for my org. And Amazon is, I mean, as I told you, Amazon, it's has tools and mechanisms for everything. So it's very easy for you to kind of implement some of these core values within your organization. So inclusion is very well defined. So they just describe four different pillars for being inclusive, right? So we have to make sure everyone is connected, everyone is informed, people are trusted, and people are valued. So I mean, these are very, very well crafted core principles of inclusion. And I feel every org in Amazon may have different ways of making sure they are adhering to this inclusion pillars. But even in Amazon Music, we make sure that we are cognizant of all these core principles, and all our decision making and collaboration ensure that we are inclusive enough, right? So so that those are certain diversity inclusion journeys that I take up. I consistently conduct some events like Women's Day and some of other events, trying to talk to other women candidates. And we also have specific programs where we provide a good ramp up plan for returning mothers, or candidates who have taken a break and coming back. So even in my team, there's been several candidates, several employees who have come back from their maternity and have been very successful, right? So there are very clear set out processes in making sure that we are very inclusive, and things are kind of comfortable and easy when people come back after a break. So with all this, I want to now focus on what has been my journey in Amazon, right? So I joined Amazon in October 2016, and I joined Amazon Music, and I've been with Amazon Music since then. Amazon Music never stops to excite me, and I've grown with Amazon Music. I would say I and uh, the service, the what it was to what it has evolved to now, it has been in a growth trajectory, I would say. Yeah, when I was hired for Amazon Music in Bangalore, the team was not very well set up. We had a very minimal presence, and I was one of the first few leaders who was hired to probably to set up a team. And the charter that I had at that point was to migrate Amazon's music's data stores away from Oracle into different data stores. Right, this was a huge project. It was a Amazon wide mandate, and we had to do it from Bangalore. So this was my first project that I took, built a team, kind of delivered it with great quality. In that process, learned about a lot of systems in Amazon, and successfully completed it well within time. Right. So, and after that, I had an opportunity to take more projects, and kind of those were all critical projects, and to kind of deliver on that. But I raised hand for an opportunity to own systems. Yeah. So we spoke about ownership, right? So I felt I have to own systems end to end and improve those systems to deliver results for our customers, right? So there were systems like catalog ingestion at that point, which was not scaled enough, which was very fragile, because I mean, if you thought about, I mean, 5 years back, our catalog, from what it is to what it is now, it has grown exponentially, right? So we were not cut out at that point in time to kind of manage that scale. There were a lot of customer issues, and there was, I mean, and the current team who owned that did not have, I mean, Amazon Music was growing at a very fast pace, so they did not have enough bandwidth to focus on that. So I raised my hand. I said I can own that problem, and I can solve that problem, and kind of take that stack, and make sure it's scaled, right? So my leadership was happy. I took the transition of that system, made sure that I understood that system end to end. What are the customer pain points? It was a supply chain system. This is the first place where our customers, our vendors, our partners, kind of ingest content into our system, right? So it had issues with, it was a very legacy system. It needed to be re-architected. It needed to be a kind of the error handling, and the scale in which it will process multiple requests had to be really improved. So that was the first system that I owned, and I completely transformed with a great team. I had hired great leaders by the time, and transformed that system into a very well scalable, a future ready stack, right? And in the same fashion, I raised my hand for one more opportunity where there was no clear owner for the lyrics and X-ray backend. So I raised my opportunity. Even there was a problem where lyrics offering for Amazon Music was not available in all the territories. It was available only in US, UK, and Japan. The system was not scaled enough to take up multiple content providers and multiple territories, and it needed a re-architecture and create it like a global platform which can work on heuristic-based rules, which can take different input content, which can also be launched with minimal time in multiple different territories, right? So that is another opportunity which I raised my hand, and I got that opportunity. I took a it was a digital team goal to kind of make sure we are launching lyrics across different territories, almost like 10 different territories simultaneously. So I had to work within 2 quarters, completely re-architect that system and make sure that we have a global platform ready to launch 10 different territories on time. So this was another accomplishment. So I this and there was another area which I owned, which is around data. So we were doing critical projects around there, and we were also proposing to kind of um, make the customer experience, the consumer experience for data within Amazon Music much more scalable and much more hybrid, and with both relational as well as non-relational data to be available in different kind of technologies, right? So these are three different areas I was owning at that point in time. Everything I kind of insisted on owning and transforming and delivering results. So this way I built great trust in the quality of what I delivered uh, to the business, and how I kind of made sure our customers are enjoying music at scale. And yeah, this really paved way for my growth into a senior leader in Amazon Music. And by the time I had very mature leaders who were reporting to me, who could take care of all these areas, and um, um, who could also innovate on behalf of our customers, right? At that point, there were a lot of innovation initiatives that I took up, especially around ability to kind of making sure the SLA to from the ingestion to the time that we would publish it readily available for the customers is the time. The SLA it was like 24 hours. We take very aggressive targets, like it is within 6 hours, and later now it is even reduced to 30 minutes, right? So those were some very aggressive goals that I took, and I made sure that we are delivering on those innovations. And also for the lyrics, how do we make sure we have out of box ways of kind of time synchronizing the lyrics based on a vocal start, right? Detecting the vocals and then kind to time synchronize it. So I made sure we are innovating and we are delivering for our customers, and all these areas were very well groomed, and it built a lot of trust, not only in me, in the Bangalore organization overall, for the Amazon Music leadership to expand in Bangalore, right? So if you look at it, when I started in early on in 2016, we hardly had like 20-25 people to start with, and I built a team of like 40 people after that. And now if you look at it, we are almost hitting like 200 mark. And there are like several different systems and several different experiences that are being owned completely here, which I would to talk about catalog, search, data experience, retail experience, and then music videos, and the multimodal experience, and so many. I mean, almost all kind of technology, all kind of stack of development, full stack is available in Amazon Music Bangalore now. So which I think it's a great growth, definitely. So as I delivered these, as I grew, I felt I need to take up a completely new challenge, and I wanted to go closer to customers. I mean, though I was scaling platforms for our customers, I wanted to really define the user experience, get into that area as well. I had very little exposure to clients. I have not managed client teams. So when there was an opportunity to lead and build a team for delivering music videos experience for our customers, I again raised my hand and I said I really want to do that. And that gave me opportunity to kind of uh, build a technology and architecture, and also a team from scratch, and also get into being very very self-sufficient, right? So we have program, product, engineering, which includes dev, QA, everyone in Bangalore. So the decision making is very much within Bangalore, and that is a completely different opportunity for me to kind of show my leadership skills and kind of build up a team and deliver for our customers, right? So it was a time where Amazon Music leadership was also kind of experimenting with the model called single threaded owner, where the instead of a decentralized functions like product function, program function, engineering function, QA function, there is a single owner for a particular experience or a particular pillar, who will kind of, that leader will be responsible for the program, product, engineering, QA, operations, and everything. So the decision making, it's again aligning to our day one, right? So the decision making is much faster, and it's very bottom up. I mean, that's what really excites me. Like, you define what you want to do for our customers, and you go back and get your guidance from your leadership. It's not top down. So all these STO leaders, as a STO leaders, we have the responsibility to define what is the charter for our teams, what is that we want to deliver for our customers. That's the most exciting part about being in Amazon and in Amazon Music, right? So music videos is a great new leaf in my chapter, I would say. A ton of experience, ton of learning, and I would say it just gave me also a great experience, great opportunity to collaborate cross teams, right? So we collaborate with Prime Video, kind of evaluate their stack and how we can integrate Prime Video stack with our stack to deliver a video playback experience, right? Lot of challenges in the way, and a lot of uh, uh, different ways to solve it. So I felt it was very energizing experience altogether to kind of own this product and kind of deliver this for across all clients. Now we are live in almost 10-12 territories. Unfortunately, we are not in India yet, and in 10-12 territories across different devices like Fire TV, iOS, Android, web, and all that, right? So, and we are constantly expanding on other devices and exploring different wow features for our customers. One such wow feature is, I mean, if is also the toggle. Yeah, you get to kind of switch between the audio track and the corresponding video track, and this was very stimulating, interesting solution to solve. It's not very straightforward. Our content providers, the labels, they do not really provide that mapping to you. You have to develop your algorithms to map these content from what maps an audio to its corresponding official music video. That was one of the interesting problem to solve. Now we are extending that problem to solve for how do you switch to the exact same location the customer is in, and when they switch from an audio to video, how do they kind of move to that exact same location. So these are some innovations that do happen in parallel, and that really motivates the team as well as me to be kind of delivering, right? And as I mature this team, I take up more challenges, and now I'm also managing a multimodal team, which is a kind of a visual and voice experience combined together, right? Like, it's a visual experience on voice and voice experience on visual, like for example, Alexa on mobile. So these are some things that keeps me going in Amazon. It keeps me excited. It keeps me motivated every day. And I would be really happy about my choice of moving to Amazon. I mean, till now, I've never felt a dull moment in Amazon. So that's a great milestone in my tech journey, I would say. Yeah, as I would also like to touch upon some of the common questions that people get into, like how is the work-life balance? How are you guys managing that? So because we liaise and interact because it's a global team, Amazon Music is a global team, and most of the teams in Amazon will be a global team. We will have to interact with global counterparts, right? So that would mean that you will have to have some night calls or calls in a time zone that's not your natural to you, right? So but you have the flexibility, I would say. At least in my case, I start at 9 and I close at 5, and then I log in back at 9 p.m. for a couple of hours to make sure I have these sync ups that I needed. So there is, I would say, it is completely under your control. There is our leadership, especially in Amazon Music, they make sure, and it is that people, they encourage people to drop out of meetings if they are not needed. There is nothing like mandatory meetings where you have to attend because you got an invite, and everyone here at every level is empowered to decline meetings if they think that it is not relevant to them. And apart from that, we also have a culture of like no meeting days, right? So weekly, one day we used to have a no meeting day, strictly followed. There's absolutely no meetings. And in this pandemic, we also kind of added one more day in a month as a no meeting day, which is just to make sure you are able to prioritize your work and life in a better way. Nobody is going to ask you if you prioritized your home course at that point in time, because it's completely your choice in that no meeting day, right? So, and constantly we have something called as tech days and leadership demos, which keeps the team motivated. So we have like um, every sprint, or at least in a quarter, we have a kind of a innovation kind of a sprint where people are allowed to do whatever problem they want to solve, whatever they want to do, and kind of demo that to us. So this has been extremely successful. That gives us a lot of interesting product ideas, what we want to do. And being a bottom up culture, this many times this gets into a roadmap, which in turn excites our engineers to be contributing more towards it. So these are small things that really keeps everyone energized in Amazon, and especially in Amazon Music, right? So so with this, I think I want to just move on to kind of wrapping up with some of the tips and takeaways that I had in my whole tech journey, career journey, which probably is something that you could also follow and probably benefit. Uh, yeah, so I always feel you should take quitting as not an option, right? So when you explore for different options for the challenges that you face, you'll always find a solution. So sometimes it might be the best optimized, sometimes you'll need to iterate over it, but you should always make sure that you're exploring all the options before taking very um, a final decision. And then another principle that I follow is like think big and plan incrementally. So I always plan for next 6 months, what I'm going to do, what I want to be, and where should I go. And even if you want to do a career decision, I checkpoint myself at a 6 point at a 6 month and see the decision that I took. Is it the right thing? Am I doing well, or should I course correct? So you should have aspirations on what you want to be, but make sure you are not doing something big bang and getting disappointed. Planning something that is for a near future will always help you. That will also kind of see, for example, you want to kind of take a new role, and you want to see whether you're cut out for it. Take it, don't say no. Take that opportunity, checkpoint yourself, plan it, and see how you're doing in the incremental checkpoint, right? That is going to help you to evaluate yourself whether what you have done is the right thing or not. And even planning big bang in this world of rapidly changing things is not going to help you at all. I mean, I would say some people might even argue with me 6 months is too long a time, but that has worked for me. So if you think that works for you, please you can adopt it. I would say stay relevant and don't be complacent. The moment you feel you have accomplished and you have built the trust and people are happy with you, maybe that's the time you should think you should take a new challenge, right? So and always try to be relevant in this fast changing technological world. You have to be learning and you have to be curious about what is happening around you and how you are connected to the latest things that are happening around you, which is very important. And the third and other next thing is raise your hand for opportunity. Take calculated risks, right? Don't be risk aware. Without risks there is no rewards, right? You have to raise your hand. You have to make sure that you're grabbing opportunities. Most of the time you'll be able to succeed. I mean there is, I mean in I cannot recollect something where I very drastically failed, right? So even if it happens, you can always iterate and recorrect it. I mean, as you grow as a leader, what's important is how do you fail fast? How do you learn from your mistakes? How are you coming back very fast? That's what is more important than people not failing at all. That can never be the case. People will fail, and you have to embrace failures and fail fast, and then learn from it and come back very quickly, right? So that's very important. And please ask for help. I mean, don't think that asking for help it just makes you look so vulnerable, or you are kind of looking very less significant, or you're looking weak. Not at all. Instead of overwhelming yourself and half delivering something with so many things, just take support. Even at home or at work, just call out, yes, I need help here, I need some support. So that will go very well than just taking everything on your head. And the last thing is definitely have fun, have gang of girls, invest in some hobbies. I kind of continue the art of music. I now listen to a lot of audible books. So invest in something that you can do outside your work, outside your home course, which is very, very important. You need to have fun. Yeah, with this, I am done with my talk. I am ready to kind of take up Q&A. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so I have the first question from Rekha, who seems to have a SD1 interview scheduled, and she would like to get tips from how she has to prepare for that. Rekha, what we look for the SD1 candidates in Amazon is they have to be very, very strong in their computer science fundamentals. So you should be strong in problem solving, data structures, and algorithms. So I would say if you prepare on that respect, you should be good enough. And we will also try to see how, through your problem solving, or if you are coming as a lateral hire, what how you have delivered in your previous organizations, what kind of leadership skills that you have exhibited there. But the core evaluation is around your ability to solve problems, your ability to kind of be strong in computer science fundamentals. So be prepared on that respect, and I wish you all the best. Yeah. The next question is from Ramya. How can we resume a tech career seamlessly after a break? Right. So it's a great question. What is important is even after a break, you should be relevant. That means when I say relevant, brush up on all the core skills that are needed for the job role that you're applying. If it means that you need to brush up on your coding skills, if it needs that you need to brush up on some of the data structures, algorithms, or depending on your role, the core functional skills, brush up on that. Take your time, brush up on that. And most of the companies, including Amazon, are open to people who have taken break. And there are also, I think, certain programs that companies would offer on kind of people who are coming back after a break, right? So, and uh, so that it is not, a bigger disadvantage, I would say. Every company is very open to that candidates, and so just brush up, I would say, on your core functional skills for that particular role, and you should be good to take interview. Yeah, so Dia, question from Dia. What is exciting for people in tech roles, and what kind of career growth path is available for people in the tech ladder, right? So, um, as I was telling you, what's exciting the tech uh, um, candidates, the tech engineers in Amazon, is their ability to kind of solve problems at scale. You will never be able to imagine the scale that Amazon offers you, and the kind of billions of customers and the millions of customers that you have to impact, and your services and the backend systems and uh, the systems that you develop have to scale to that respect. Apart from that, Amazon is making sure that they are, I mean, with doing the scale, you should always constantly reevaluate the tech stack, making sure that you are deploying the most efficient tech stacks for that scale, right? So that would naturally evolve to being redesigning or re-architecting your systems time and again in a regular period of time, right? So that is another area. There is plethora of technology and services that are being adapted in Amazon, and a lot of AWS related technologies, so you'll get to learn all that. And the third aspect is the source code is open, right? So it's not just you learn from your current team and the current domain that you work on. You are welcome to learn from every other team. I mean, the best practices, the wikis, the code, source code, everything is open. And we also have a unique culture when we are partnering with other teams. For example, I was talking about music videos, we are partnering with Prime Video. We have an opportunity to a mechanism where we can contribute to their code base, right? So you are essentially amidst what to say, uh, thousands of smart people, and you get to learn from most of them. So that is the best part about being in a tech role. It's constantly constant innovation and constant experimentation and constant learning, right? So, and to answer your second question, what is a growth path? There is a very clear growth path to be in the tech role. So we have SD1 to SD3 who are like in the architects level. Then we have principal engineers, we have senior principal engineers, which is at a director level, right? So the tech pillar, the tech growth path is very, very well established, and there is absolutely there is it's employees' choice to kind of choose which path they want. And not just that, at least in Amazon Music I've seen, and it's true with all other teams, where you are encouraged to explore. I mean, people in IC role have experienced manager role, come back to IC role, managers who have also explored an IC role and they've moved back to that role. So it is like something that is very encouraged. Switching roles and based on your interest is something that can happen at any point in time, right? So that is the answer to your question. Like, we have a very well established tech IC career path. Yeah, question from Alia. How do you prepare yourself to get into a tech role in Amazon, right? So it's a similar question. So it depends on at which stage you're trying to get into a tech role. If it's in the SD1 level, the computer science fundamentals is applicable to anyone who's getting into a tech role at an IC level. So you have to be very, at a SD1 level, you have to be very strong in your computer science fundamentals, like problem solving, your data structures and algorithms, as I spoke. And when you're getting into an SD2 role, you're expected to be able to design a kind of disambiguate a problem and come up with a low level and high level design apart from the computer science fundamentals. So and if you're coming up into an SD3 role, the problems the problems that you have to disambiguate and get into an architecture or a high level design will be much more complex. So I would say, depending on which stage you want to get in to the tech role, make sure you're prepared well enough. Our recruiters help you, support you in that. Please talk to our recruiters, and if you need any tips, they will definitely connect you with the hiring managers to provide what is expected out of an interview in Amazon. So those resources are very well available. I would encourage strongly, please make use of it. I think any other questions? Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm really thank you for your time and listening to my journey. It was really exciting for me to share this with you. I hope it was beneficial for you and you have some takeaways from this. Yeah, wishing you all the best. Thanks a lot.